Fragments of Silicon. Each one is a little bit different, even though it's really hard to tell sometimes.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. We hope you've had a good Thanksgiving holiday. We're back, and presumably the news is going to be a lot of turkey talk. So
Gobble,
let's get to it. Yeah. All right, with that, you volunteered first, man.
Damn it. My Thanksgiving weekend overall was kind of uneventful. I did manage to sneak out to Kmart and get some... I needed to get some more pants and found a nice blanket that my cat has commandeered. So I think I've lost that forever.
Cats.
Yeah, it's a fuzzy blanket too, so it's like, this is mine now.
Cats will do that.
Yep.
Yep.
Not mine, though.
As far as gaming stuff, on the Black Friday sale Steam was having, I picked up Puyo Puyo Tetris, which that was what we'll be playing on stream in the post show because I love me some good Tetris.
Also some good Puyo Puyo. Also some really weird Tetris characters to go with the Puyo Puyo characters that have been around longer but are also kind of weird.
Well, it's like I've never been that big of a fan of Puyo Puyo. It's always been too slow
harder
for me. Is the problem? Like once
it's harder to set up combos. I think.
Yeah, you get into a fugue state in Tetris and it's just.
I've been that way as well. I like Puyo Puyo more than, say, Puzzle Bobble, but less than Tetris.
It is more refined than the beta version of Columns, though, at least.
I think Puyo Puyo is good as literally a puzzle-solving game, but it's less good as just an infinite mode.
Yeah,
game,
Fever mode is great, but actually setting stuff up is kind of a pain.
Mm.
And also, I finally finished Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Oh god, that final boss. When you get there...
I don't remember which one Birth by Sleep is, so I don't know which final boss is, and I haven't played it anyway, but...
PSP prequel to everything.
Okay. So it's the one with the Terra, Aqua, and Ventus?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you decide to do Birth by Sleep Twilight, Prism Rain is your friend. It's broken as hell. Use it often.
Also, you said to choose magic over physical over sword. I think.
Not for Birth by Sleep. It your stats are based on your main character you pick, and you go through. You have to go through all three of them.
I see.
Yeah, and then now I need to decide if I want to replay Dream Drop Distance because I didn't think Birth by Sleep would be this short. So that's gonna be fun. And I think that's it on my end.
All right, Golix?
Well, we've definitely had some actual snow up here, although there's been just as much rain, so it hasn't accumulated that much. And some really questionable calls both ways on things being closed, like things not being closed when they should have, and things being closed when they really didn't need to be. But thankfully, where I live near the coast, so we don't have as much. So don't have that much accumulation. Apparently, if you go further inland or further north, there is quite a bit. So, knock on wood, it kind of stays that way for a bit. I'm not quite ready for full-on snow. I didn't actually do much in the way of any Black Friday weekend shopping because I'm kind of between paychecks right now. unfortunately, but I did over the break get my Figure Out the Family Netflix account and stuff, and I watched the both seasons of the Castlevania series on Netflix, and I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
And I have other things I'm planning on watching, but I haven't gotten around to that yet. Not too much in gaming news aside from still playing Circle of the Moon and a little bit of Splatoon 2. Although we do have a game on the Switch that I'm going to be doing the lead on reviewing, so I'm going to start playing that soon so I can try to get as much time in as possible if necessary.
Right.
Though there are also the games for this week, so.
Well, there's just Kara no Sojo in your case, because that's one that, like, I'm handling the other two because they were just the one code.
Okay.
One of those situations. I'll talk about it more when we wrap up the show.
Yeah, it's still a visual novel, so it'll take a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed, I'm kind of counting on you guys to cover Kara no Shoujo because the other, one of the other games is actually taking up quite a bit of my time. So.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know much else, so next.
All right.
I guess that's me then. All right then. Thanksgiving was pleasant. It wasn't eventful. We had fun. We didn't have any relatives over for this year, so it was just me and my parents. But it was overall good. There's some how to put it, family-related stuff we've been having to take care of recently, and we got sorted out pretty well. Nothing absolutely serious, but something that needs to be done, though. So I avoided Black Friday like the plague. The one time back in 2008, and I said never again.
Yeah, sometimes I do Cyber Monday. By Cyber Monday, I would never do Black Friday, or even like Small Business Saturday or whatever. There's like an entire week they've given fucking names to.
We made the mistake of getting a microwave last year. Never again.
Oh yeah, we actually got a new. I think we got a new washing machine, but it's not here yet. So I don't know what that's worth.
Yeah. Yeah, my mother considered to go to Black Friday to get a new carpet cleaner, but she found out there was one with a better deal online, so she got that, which saved us that trouble, considering what happened at the local Walmart. Anyway, in terms of gaming, I finished up First Kingdom Hearts on my copy of the collection. I've gotten to the prologue of a 2, and that's as far as I got there. I've beaten Kingdom Hearts 2 in like a week, so it won't be a problem for me. But if I say it's gonna be the fun one, though.
Yeah.
So I bought Kingdoms of Alamar off of Steam during the sale, just in case something happens to it, since THQ picked it up recently.
Well, here's the thing: like, nothing should happen to it because it didn't disappear during 38 Studios' whole affair.
Well,
that's because.
I was gonna say it might be HD remake or something like that, because THQ is usually good about giving those out for free if you already own it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Like, I've gotten quite a few of those.
Almost like that's part of our review schedule sometimes. Cough, cough.
Anyway.
Yeah, I picked up Far Cry Primal, which I've been wanting to get for quite some time.
I'm sorry you have to deal with Uplay.
I refuse to deal with them. I will not pick up a Ubisoft game that has Uplay in it.
Same with me, especially when I was playing Far Cry 3, it crashed and I lost 8 hours of progress and said never again.
That is
Yep,
concerning.
that's a good chance to take with Uplay.
Well, anyway,
I'd like to buy-
that'll be about it for me.
Yeah, I'd like to buy Child of Light, but that requires Uplay.
Yeah.
No. Anyway,
dear.
I guess it's my go. Let's see. Thanksgiving was kind of unusual in the sense that we had extended family up here, but they came up the day after Thanksgiving. Like,
Hooray!
Okay.
I'm like, well, it's like instead of having to deal with racist ranting at the Thanksgiving dinner table, I had to deal with that during the weekend. They're Trump supporters. I'm like, I made prodigious use of my headphones this past weekend because, yeah, I'm like, it was immigrants, border wall bullshit.
Caravan.
Yeah, I'm like, we can talk more about that shit in the post show.
Yep.
Let's see. This week, my big dilemma has been dealing with jury duty. Yeah, I'm on call. I've been on call all week. I've been lucky so far. I haven't actually been summoned yet, but I haven't been dismissed either. So I could still be doing that on Friday. So, it's like every day after 5, I have to call in and make sure my number has been called. It has not been called yet. I say, thankfully that didn't happen because we had a show on Tuesday and that went through. Let's see. Yeah, Black Friday. Like, you couldn't pay me to deal with Black Friday. Like, which is, I'm really glad I don't work retail.
Oh
Pray for
God, a couple of our raid members do, and they had some stories on Tuesday which I could have streamed.
So did Nash. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's see. Let's see. I picked up Quest for Glory Collection, Cold Fear. Speaking of Ubisoft games that don't require Uplay, and Song of the Deep during the Steam sale, and I got Naka Tokitori 2 Plus because the game was like $1.49, and that seems like a game he might let's play at one point. Now it's a Metroidvania. And yeah, I think that's about it from my end of the pool. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast, and joining us for his 25th appearance. We've honestly lost count at this point.
I wouldn't be shocked if that was accurate, though.
Yeah, John Pickett of MangaGamer.
Hello, welcome. It's good to be back on.
Yeah, indeed. How was your Thanksgiving?
I had a good Thanksgiving. We went down to my family's, visited my cousins for the first time this year because they just got a new house. So we ate there instead of my aunt's.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's see where to start. Oh, right. So, yeah, it's been an interesting year for MangaGamer, to say the least. Like, if you're unfamiliar with that saga, you can see our previous interviews for more details. But I'm like, where we are right now is, well, Steam has basically thrown up its hands and said, pretty much anything goes. And well, how is that?
I think it's less anything goes and more they've just said fuck it.
I'm like, whatever. It's kind of it's all at the same destination. Like, and as such, well, MangaGamer has been releasing full and uncensored games, of which you could not do previously.
Yeah. So, with Steam's new quote unquote policies, we have been able to finally start releasing some of our adult-only titles that were originally only available on our website onto Steam. But yeah, essentially right now, Steam has basically just turned into the wild, wild west.
Again.
Yeah, it's not that they don't have content policies in place. They still do. If you are a developer and you go into Steam, you still see the exact same agreement that says you agree not to host and sell pornography on Steam. That is still there. That has not changed.
Mhm.
They're
Probably just laziness, but you'd think they'd want to change that.
I think it's more they still have it there for self-protection and they're just choosing not to enforce it because there are several titles that they have taken down already that did have adult content. And so that's kind of the thing is we are basically just back to the state of okay Valve, okay Steam, what is actually acceptable here? You're not telling anyone. You're not really giving anyone any kind of guidelines or being yeah hoping for clarity on what content Steam is now allowing on its platform is a wish in a barrel.
Let's dance.
And it's so we're at that point where it's like if we're basically just back to that point where any single representative at Valve can decide at any point in time that they don't think a game is acceptable, aka they don't like a game, and take it down, ban it, remove it, all kinds of different punitive responses. And of course, Valve still does not talk to developers, so you can make an appeal. It's just going to disappear into the ether and never get answered.
Oh God, what a shit
Like
show!
when they recently made their big announcement about any content is going to be allowed, we managed to get like 2 emails sent back and forth between us and one Valve representative. Like we actually got 2 whole emails. It's
I
amazing.
trust that was
by the
marked
way.
on the calendar, framed for all the world to see.
Yeah.
And in those emails, they said that yes, they would go back and take another look at our release of A Kiss for the Petals, Maidens of Michael, to reevaluate it to see if it would be put back on Steam. We never actually heard anything about them doing this evaluation. They still have not reinstated the game on Steam, and we have not heard back on that quote unquote agreement since. So they're just not doing it.
I'm like, yeah, I've heard that customer service excuse before. Yeah, sure, we'll get right on that. Yeah, they'll never get back to it. Like, I'm pretty sure they put the phone into a skeleton's hands. Oh God.
But
Right. So with
Bold of you to assume that Steam wants to spend that Valve wants to spend the money to hire a skeleton.
yeah, no, Valve only wants to do work towards automating so that they don't have to do work.
oh shit, I've never seen a company that works so hard at not wanting to do work. I'm like, but well, against that backdrop, you have been releasing adult-oriented visual novels.
Yes, and we can't. We can't not do that because of course everyone is doing that. So we are trying to take the strategic approach to this. We are being very careful about like which titles we pick, and we are testing for certain things to try and see like okay. Let this be on the platform.
How many adult titles? Okay.
Yeah, I think we had a cut there for a second. So, John, you might want to take that one over again.
Okay, given the way Valve is behaving with this, we've taken the strategic approach towards releasing titles on Steam. And we have been handpicking and choosing specific titles to release on Steam to essentially poke and test at where things stand and how things work now under these new non-policies. And so it's like our first set of adult titles was we published a Vinicle, which is, I don't remember if we spoke about it on this podcast before or not, but it's one of the, but it's an adult RPG published by Alisoft with artwork by the artist of Senran Kagura. And it's a full-on JRPG, so we're like, okay, this is a full game. Are games with adult content going to be okay on Steam? So far, it seems like yes. We also, with that round, we're testing the release of adult patches for Fashioning Little Miss Lonesome and Eden, because with the new content filters coming out in Steam, if your game is labeled adult, you're just automatically invisible in the Steam store. Your title literally does not get seen by any Steam user unless they go into their settings, go into preferences, and edit their preferences to say, yes, I would like to see adult content. So everyone out there listening, if you haven't already done this, make sure you go into your settings on Steam and update them so you can actually see the games that are being released.
Indeed.
But yeah, so that was the strategy we had with the DLC releases of the adult patches, was to figure out whether or not that was a feasible option. Like, can we release a mature game that's going to get full visibility on Steam and an adult patch that may be subject to the new visibility rules, but would at least allow the main base game to be sold at full marketing presence?
And how has that been working out?
That so far has been working well. The patches are up. The base games that are only labeled mature are not rendered invisible on Steam, so those still have all the visibility that they are supposed to. And then it's only the DLC. Only the DLC is subject to the invisibility part of Steam's new systems. And Vinicle has done amazing for us on Steam.
And on the flip side of the coin, are you still going to be offering, edited versions of these going forward, or is it just going to be the uncensored version?
It's going to depend on the title. So, to give you an example, there's our title that's up for pre-order right now, If You Love Me, Then Say So. There's one heroine in that game that we think Steam might ding the game for, given games that they have previously banned on Steam. So we're not releasing that one on Steam just yet. So that's only going to be on our website only for now. But we do have other titles in line, like, for example, our upcoming release of Bokuten. We are still looking at creating an edited version that would be sold as the main game on Steam, and then having the adult content add-on as a DLC patch that people can buy with it at release. So that way people who don't necessarily want the adult content, but still want to enjoy the rest of the game can do that too. And also so we don't get hidden on Steam.
Indeed.
'Cause we would very much still like our games to be seen by the people that are actually using and playing games on Steam.
It is. It's a tough situation. I imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
on the one hand, you are, theoretically at least, less encumbered in your releases, but on the other hand, they've been effectively okay. So this might take some explaining because, I'm like they're essentially been put on the bottom shelf. It's like
They're not even on the bottom shelf. They're in the back room behind the black curtain that's drawn, separating it from the rest of the store.
right. That's
I mean,
what
nothing wrong with that, but
it-
it's certainly not helpful to getting this stuff out.
No, and the other problem is that if it's an actual store, you would at least see the black curtain. You don't on Steam.
No, that is the thing. If your game is labeled adults only, it's not. It might as well not exist if you have the parental controls on.
Basically, and not even parental controls. The default setting is hide all adult content. So it doesn't
Right.
matter what your age is. You have to, as a customer of Steam, you have to manually go in and edit the settings to open this new section of Steam.
I'm like, well, let's take an example here, like Kara no Shoujo, which is the game that we are playing right now for review this week. This is one of the new adults-only releases, and I know you can't talk specifics about sales numbers, but like how has this been doing in comparison to one of your games that you can see?
I mean, obviously the numbers are there, you definitely see a difference. There's definitely an effect between whether or not the game is visible and whether it's not. It was hard to tell with the Vinicle because that had such a huge hit, and I think it's because of the artist. We couldn't really use that for a baseline, but I mean we are still moving a decent amount of titles, but a lot of that is because we as a company have had to do a lot of effort of pointing out to people how to change their settings, how to adjust the settings, how to access this new hidden closet of Steam. And so because of those efforts and because other companies are doing the same because they also want their games to get seen, the numbers that we're seeing on the invisible titles are going up, but we just have to hope that we continue where we see new Steam users also going in and updating the settings and not people hopefully that people don't forget that this is the thing that you have to do.
And it's pretty easy to forget, like
because once you do it, you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm like, so yeah. Once again, if you haven't done this, make sure you do this. If you wish to see such things.
I need to remember to probably put a link to how to do that when we do the review of this, just so if somebody wants to find the game, they can.
Yeah, that'd
be helpful.
I got your back.
Anyway, so I suppose we should talk about Kara no Shoujo as a visual novel in and of itself. So for the uninitiated, what is this particular product?
So Kara no Shoujo is a murder mystery, and it's set in 1950s post-war Japan. You follow the detective Tokisaka, who's been approached by two different people for two seemingly unrelated cases. One is the girl Toko, who gives him a very odd request to find her true self, And the other client, the other request, comes from his friends at the police department who are asking for his assistance uh, to help catch a serial murderer who is killing girls from the all girls school which Toko attends and is leaving the victims stylized after the punishments inflicted upon sinners in Dante's Inferno. Throughout the game, there
Man,
is.
they must have a really good supply of bees.
There's a lot of the game does have gameplay. Honestly, the closest game to compare it to in terms of the gameplay was Phoenix Wright. There are crime scenes that you, as the player, have to investigate by clicking around, and those crime scenes include depictions of the victims and the corpses. I think, if I remember right, I think there's even one scene where one of the clues is literally stuffed in their mouth, and so you have to click on the mouth to get that clue. But unlike Phoenix Wright, you can miss these clues, and so you can also miss different clues based on your investigations because you choose where you go throughout the days in game. And your travel and your choices of destinations are limited by time. So you can only go to so many places so often. And so you can miss clues that way as well. And then, of course, if you're missing clues, then you don't necessarily have everything you need to form the right inferences, figure out and solve the murder. And that tends to lead to very bad ends.
And
yeah, the writing and the story is told exceedingly well, and it really captures the visceral emotions of being that detective in the pursuit of a killer who is several steps ahead of you and just trying to catch up to them before they can do even worse to everyone you know.
and this is one of those visual novels that's fully voiced, pretty much.
Yes.
What sort of vocal talents are on display here? Any seiyus who might be known to the audience?
Yes, possibly. Because it is an adult title, a lot of the voice actresses are using their stage names for adult content. So people, even though there are voices that you would recognize from, say, anime or especially from other visual novels, they have quite a few veterans of veteran voice actresses for visual novels in the cast. So you'll be able to recognize a lot of those voices, even if you wouldn't necessarily recognize the name when I said it.
Right, not an uncommon practice because
Yeah.
And speaking of such topics, what kind of adult content is in this title that would render it invisible on Steam?
I mean, Karu no Shoujo's like actual erotic content is pretty vanilla overall. I mean, it's a lot of standard sex, blowjobs, tit jobs, uh, you know, cum shots here and there. The normal kind of thing that you would see in uh I guess it's still softcore porn. But yeah, like it's not you don't really see any like there's no extreme S&M or bondage or anything like that in Karu no Shoujo. The only time you ever see anyone restrained in Karu no Shoujo is when they're being bound up to be killed. And that's not a sexual moment at all.
I'm like borrowing fetish, but that's a whole other topic. But yeah, it's like I think the thing to keep in mind here is, Steam and Valve, they're American companies, so um, that kind of material is going to make them much more squeamish than the violence on display. You know,
Yeah, like in Japan, the blood and the violence is way more of an issue than the sex scene.
right.
In Japan, having the sex scenes just means it gets labeled adult, and that's fine, and it's sold in the adult stores and the adult sections, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But yeah, the blood was the issue that the developers had to be more careful about in Japan.
No doubt. Europe probably as well. You know, it's like
Depends on the part of Europe, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's not just Valve, but Twitch here. Like, you know, we have the game. It's just we are not streaming because we've seen what it contains, and if we put that on air, this channel might get deleted.
Yeah.
You can
Like-
put like ACG on stream. There's a few good ones that you could still show.
I know, but it's more a cautionary thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like we don't want to take the chance because, you know, we like our channel and we wish.
Oh yeah,
to,
no, you definitely need to keep it because you need to be able to continue what you're doing.
We
Yeah,
need to have
because-
you on another 25 times.
Yeah, I'm like, right. Anyway, but yeah, this isn't the only adult title that's hitting or has hit Steam. A couple of recent ones, as in like the past couple of weeks, are the Tower of Five Hearts and No Thank You.
Yes, No Thank You is another one of the titles that we selected for strategic testing. With No Thank You, we're essentially seeing whether or not Steam is going to kick off games that contain gay content.
Yeah, because that was kind of a bit of a problem at one point. Cough, cough.
Yeah.
Right. And specifically, well, No Thank You is a BL title. You know,
Yes.
like different standards apply to, you know, different LGBT content.
Yeah,
well.
and in No Thank You, there is actually a very strong story to No Thank You. And I mean, even at our company over the years, we've seen plenty of people play and enjoy it purely for the story, even straight dudes.
Right.
Despite the fact that the game absolutely does have guy-on-guy sex and even options to choose how hairy you want your men to be.
Well then.
The ladies really love that.
Only Japan.
That's not necessarily just the ladies. Like, once again, that's getting into some subsections here. You know, the whole bara bear.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thing.
Yeah, that was one of the exciting things to work on with when we localized No Thank You many years ago as our first BL title, is the fact that it does have characters that appeal to both your typical female fans of BL as well as fans that are more bara and would appeal to male fans of male on male action.
Mm-hmm. So, is this a Fujoshi title?
Technically, but like I said, I think it has a strong appeal for actual gay men as well.
Makes sense. And how explicit do things get in this one?
Oh, you absolutely see dick in ass.
Well then.
Oh, that's yeah. It's like no point sugarcoating it, I suppose.
Yeah. There is. Yeah, you see anal sex, you see hand jobs, you see blow jobs. There's.
God.
Yeah. I know there's at least like one shower sex scene. Yeah, the guys get it on.
I'm like, it sounds like the bases are covered, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and on the flip side, in more ways than one, actually, we got the Tower of Five Hearts, which is a Yuri title.
Yes. That was actually the second title developed and published by the English developers, Sukiware. Their previous title is that's currently only available on our store, not Steam, and that's called Critical Hit, which is about an androgynous trap character, male character. But no, Tower of Five Hearts was a Yuri title that they produced as their second title with different artists. It's about this world where the four kingdoms maintain their sort of balance of peace by competing to see who gets to marry the prince that rules over the center of the land. Only this time, there's no prince, just a princess. So they still have to compete for her hand in marriage.
Something hijinks.
Yes. It has doll girls, Lamia. There's some cat girls, I believe. It's another title that definitely appeals to those who like the, cat girls and those kind of animal girls.
Right. And well, once again, how what are we dealing with in terms of explicitness?
There's licking each other out, there's fingering each other, there's breast play, you see sex between women.
Oh, I mean, there you go.
To each their own.
Yeah. Like, and these games have been out for what, a couple weeks now?
On Steam, yeah, they've been out for a couple of weeks. We also have another one that will be another adult title we'll be releasing on Steam before Christmas called Spirits of Eternia. That we have slated to go on sale December the 6th, so next week. That is essentially another adult RPG. So for people that are fans of gameplay and lots of adult content, that'll be a good title to check out and pick up. There are plenty of scenes in that one for when you lose to monsters.
Okay, then. And, well, as much as I'd love to continue this conversation, we are running low on time here. So I guess I'll finish things off by asking, do you have any convention appearances coming up in the next year?
The next convention our company is going to attend will be Anime Boston and SakuraCon around March, April, I believe.
Okay.
That'll be the start of our convention year. And then we'll be attending the usual ASEN, Anime Expo, Otakon. Probably doing anime. We'll be doing Anime New York again. That was a fun drive this year.
I think I saw that on Twitter. Like, you were dealing with a lot of snow.
Yeah, we spent 12 hours stuck in snow in Jersey City.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, that was not a fun drive.
No.
But, yeah.
This year we'll be taken in a 4x4 vehicle.
Anyway, as usual, it was lovely having you on the program, John. And as usual, I'll extend an invitation to be on the program, say, February 2nd.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
All right, then. Well, until then, yeah, it's like you can find MangaGamer's recent adult offerings on Steam, provided you make sure to edit your control settings.
And if you're interested, we also currently, our Black Friday sale is still going on until this Friday. If you want to come visit our website, it's a big sale on all of our hard copies, so you can order some of our games in print for you or your friends for the holidays. And as I mentioned before, we have Ski, or If You Love Me Then Say So, which will be releasing on December 13th, and that is available for pre-order right now.
Okay, then. All right, Petty Fan, play us to the next segment. All right, Welcome to the topic of discussion. This week we're talking about Fallout 76. And if you've been hearing any of the news about Fallout 76, you know why.
Oh, and there's been recent developments too, and this is fun.
Yes.
How not to make a multiplayer game.
That's
No.
pretty much...
No, how
Yeah,
not
but-
to make a single-player game a multiplayer game.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm like... It's in a weird through space, that's for sure. Because what Fallout 76 is, it's not a proper multiplayer game. And that's part of the problem. Because...
I mean, it's the game is fully a multiplayer game. The problem is that it's using a single player engine that is really badly butchered to try to make it work multiplayer.
Yeah, so the creation Gamebryo engine, whatever you want to call it, the problem isn't because it's an engine they've been using since Morrowind. That's not strictly speaking true, okay? The creation engine has been updated a lot throughout the years.
Yeah.
The problem is the idea of Fallout 76 being released this close to Fallout 4. Like, how long ago was Fallout 4 released?
I think like less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe
And-
3, but I'm not fully for sure.
And we also saw this with Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas only had about a year and a half of development time, which is why there was a lot of reused assets, a lot of copy and paste in that game. But where Fallout New Vegas shined is the same reason The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask shined. Sure, there's a lot of recycling going on here, but they're doing a lot of things differently.
Yeah, it had one hell of
but
a
they're not-
story.
Yeah, but the differences are mostly in the story, like not in terms of the mechanics. Because
Whereas in this game, the story is literally whatever you glean from quest dispensing computer terminals and audio cassettes.
yeah, it's like there's no story here because what this game is it's an open world survival game.
Well, it's the most definite
you're
prequel.
playing as literally the first people to ever come out of vaults.
Yeah, this is
Because
literally
76 was
0.1
vault.
of the Fallout timeline. This is right after the first vault opens.
Yeah, 76 was like the one vault that wasn't like fucked up inside, so
I
like everybody's reasonably mentally healthy.
I think there were 2 others, but I don't remember off the top of my hand.
There weren't many.
Head. Yeah.
Not a whole lot. No.
Well, how do I put this? It doesn't really matter because if we want to talk about lore and Bethesda, that's a whole other fucking show.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is there aren't a ton of other living humans to contact with that didn't also come out, and everyone who came out is another player.
Yeah.
And,
Like, I don't even
like,
think
if
you can talk
know-
to any ghouls in this one.
No, I don't think you like the only NPCs are like robots.
I'm under the impression that there were some people who survived the Fallout without being in vaults, but I don't think they're in this game.
The North America is basically wiped out as far as lore goes. So, like, maybe in some places in maybe like the Middle East, or in some places in Africa are probably fine, but North America's dead.
And I'm not saying they survived like as a society. I'm saying there are like some individual people that survived.
Well, yeah, the people that survived are the ghouls.
Yeah.
Like, they survived, but they're the fucking ghouls.
Yeah, but it took
you
them a while
experience-
after the humans came out for them to civilize again, because they haven't seen humans in like 200 years.
Something like that. Oh, actually, 100 years, if I'm recalling correctly. I'm like, maybe 200 years? Once again, getting into the particulars of the Fallout lore is a tricky business, especially since you have to separate it out in what Interplay did and what Bethesda did.
Yeah, and people get mad, and good God.
I know. I'm like, believe me, the No More Mutants people, they're some of the most surly motherfuckers on the internet. I should tell you something. Like, you would have thought that Fallout 3 was, you know, a literal aberration of their whatever or whatever.
Seeing of some sort against them.
The rest of the world didn't fucking care.
Oh, look, something new to shoot.
Yeah. Anyway, and that's really secondary problems to Fallout 76, because what we've been getting at is Fallout 76 was built off of the back of a game engine, and a game that was built for single player, because it's not just the fact that they're using the creation engine, it's because, once again, they're recycling content. Like the whole what do they call them, the shelters. The shelters are literally copied and pasted from Fallout 4.
And they have the same bugs.
Yeah, it's like right down to the exact same bugs. Like, the same bugs that existed 2 fucking years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one of the notable things about, I think, the Bethesda, at least, Fallout games is a system that turns all of the first-person or third-person shooty stuff into more of a turn-based thing where you can, analyze a target and, shoot parts of them if you want, and it's called VATS. You probably know about this more than I do.
Yeah.
Turns out that going into bullet time to be able to select what part of a thing you're aiming at doesn't work very well when everybody's working on the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't pause multiplayer games. So
Nope.
the fucking VAT system is pretty useless.
I understand they made it into a really bad auto-targeting system.
You can go from 95% chance to hit to 0 in literally half a step. It's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, and let's see. I'm like, it's just a fucking disaster. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah. This is the worst reviewed Fallout game ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and oh god, it's been getting slammed. You usually don't see AAA productions getting slammed like this. But here's the thing: it's not all that dissimilar from other open world survival crafting games. But those usually have those problems because these things tend to be big, and by and large, that whole genre is done by smaller teams. What went wrong here was basically spit welding the whole creation system into a space that wasn't ready for it, and they shoved it out the door. I mean, could this thing work out eventually? Maybe. Could Fallout 7 recover? The answer is actually maybe, because there have been plenty of instances where games have fallen flat on their face.
I mean,
Final Fantasy 14 1.0, cough, cough.
Yeah, I was specifically going to say people are playing and enjoying Final Fantasy 14 now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait for Shadowbringers. I mean...
But, and here's the thing, but the bigger issue is, I'm like, people are finally fucking waking up, because, there's no way around it. Bethesda's has been getting by for fucking ages. It's like their games, them being notoriously buggy ain't a new thing. In fact, it's pretty reliable. The difference is in the methodology, because it's not even the fact that it's a multiplayer game. It's because this is an always online affair. And
their back end is not ready for this.
Yeah, and it's also, this is a ploy to eliminate modding. Well, here's the downside of doing that, you fucking assholes. It's like, the fucking community can't fix your shit anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, they didn't
That's
do it well because there's no server-side anti-cheat verification, really.
Right,
Something
but
to
that's
note, they
discussion-
aren't. I was gonna say they aren't using Steam for this. They're using their own launcher for PC.
yep.
Hey.
Yeah, the
So
players
if-
can no longer clean up their mess.
Yeah, if they were using Steam, they could at least use, I think it's Valve anti-cheat or whatever. But because they're not on Steam, they're just kind of hosed.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like what we basically got for the PC subset is the same situation you have for the consoles. Because, the console iterations, especially like the PlayStation versions of Bethesda games have suffered. You want to know some absolutely terrible versions of Bethesda games, like the PlayStation 3 release of Skyrim.
Oh God, why'd you have to bring that back up? Jesus.
Because it's kind of relevant to the conversation.
Yep.
That had a fucking memory leak so bad, it would eventually start fucking up your game. What happened there was your save file, every time you saved, it got bigger and bigger. And once it got bigger than 4 megs, it would start breaking down your game.
Yup.
Yep.
Only way you could fix it is to restart. I'm not sure if that ever got fixed.
It's Bethesda, probably not.
Yeah. But
it might have got fixed in the HD version for like PS4.
Most likely.
Well, the PlayStation 4 version is a different version.
Yeah,
I'm talking
but
about
like the PS3 version is probably still broken.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. And it's dealing with that situation, but on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
And it's like people are finally kind of realizing, these bugs aren't really all that endearing when there's nobody to fix them, be it the company themselves or the community.
Well, it's like with their other games, there's like a day one preferred mod pack most of the time. You get that off the workshop with a click now with Steam, and then the game's fixed.
And that's not to mention Bethesda's actual response to this, which has been very, we'll refund you. Nah, never mind, we don't feel like it.
Yeah, for PC actually all versions, because PS4 doesn't allow for refunds. I don't know about Xbox. And PC, they were going to promise refunds, and they pulled out on that, and that brings us to the lawsuit.
Right.
Oh, there's a lawsuit now?
Yep.
Yeah, it was posted like what, yesterday in the group chat?
Yep.
Something like that. I saw Leonard French, he did a video on it, but I didn't have time to watch it. But yeah, it's like a bunch of Reddit users are, there's a law firm looking into a class action lawsuit right now against Bethesda for unfair business practices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is another thing when you bungle a launch this bad. Like the last time I remember this happening, it was like with Battlefield 4 or 3. One of the previous Battlefield games had a launch that was so fucking terrible. There was a class action suit, and if you want to go to another, huge, just absolutely terrible launch that led to, a big lawsuit, Alien Colonial Marine.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what is the eventual outcome of this lawsuit? I'm like, the law firms are probably going to take Bethesda for a couple million, and the individual plaintiffs will probably see about $50 about 5 years from now.
Yeah, they might get their money refunded, or at least some of it. That's the best they might get.
Yeah. I'm like, but yeah, it's been that bad. And, I don't know what the long-term ramifications of this are. it's like, and this is not even going into all of the just outright lies that Todd Howard have spouted out.
I mean, not that big faces behind games have not like lied a lot before, but
No,
Looking
but
at you, Peter Molyneux.
yeah, I was searching
like-
for the name. I was gonna say Peter Molyneux pretty much made a career of that.
right. But it's like usually people ignore it until we get into these situations. I mean, there are entire videos just, the things that Todd Howard said at E3 and how things played out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, very clearly he was full of shit.
That
Or
might be the
he ended up
understatement of the
being-
year, my friend.
So, what this does to Bethesda, I can't say, because they could still fix Fallout.
Yeah.
A year from now, we could be hearing about how good Fallout 76 is, and what have you. It's like, and as far as further games in development,
Doom is still coming. Please let
it's
Doom
like
still be
people are-
good.
People are getting rumbly the fact that the Elder Scrolls 6 and that new IP of theirs are going to be using the Creation Engine still. I'm like, okay, it's like, it's not exactly the same as the Telltale tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, and more to the point, it shouldn't be this if they don't fucking, graft multiplayer onto, multiplayer and strip everything out of Fallout 4 and try to make that again.
Yeah. Well, and it's like most of the problem is with them conflating the reused assets with the engine being old. No, that's just laziness.
Those are two separate problems.
Right. And mind you, old engines do have their problem. See the Telltale tool, but the Telltale tool, while got updated, that just should have been scrapped at some point, because that engine was so old and up. It didn't even have proper physics options.
Yeah, eventually it's ultimately a better option to build a new engine from the ground up instead of just stacking improvement over improvement on the same old engine because of all the original stuff that's left that's just taking up space.
Yeah, but on the other hand, what we're talking about in terms of the Creation and the Gamebryo engine is kind of the difference between id Tech engines. I'm like, it's like id Tech 6, how do I put this, does have some callbacks to like id Tech 2 and even id Tech 1. id Tech engine is built off of the last one. That's more what the Creation engine is than the Telltale tool.
Yeah.
I do admit this is kind of getting out of my depth, because I don't really understand how the technicals of all that work, but I do get the generalities of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, but it's, I will say, those future games do run kind of that risk, because at a certain point you do get a whole nother iteration of that engine.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what's going to go on with the Elder Scrolls 6, and so on and so forth, because they're probably going to be popping up on the next generation of systems.
Well, and like at least with the Elder Scrolls, they have a Elder Scrolls MMO that they can kind of base online multiplayer off of if they so desire. Fallout,
it's
not
also,
so much.
It's like, I know certain people have brought up the Elder Scrolls Online, but okay, the Elder Scrolls Online isn't really comparable because that was done by a different division. That was done from the ground up. It had its problems, but having problems with early MMO launches is pretty standard, actually.
Yeah. But I mean,
it's like,
compared to Fallout, it doesn't have any time slowdown mechanics like with VATS or whatever. So it's more conducive to a online experience compared to Fallout, which its shooting mechanic is so clunky, you really need to slow down time with VATS or something, but you can't do that online.
And this is, it's like it's an unfortunate situation, but for the audience, for us, it's also pretty fucking hilarious.
I know, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, Fallout.
Also, apparently, the $200 special edition of Fallout 76 was supposed to come in a nylon bag, and apparently, that was too expensive, so they made a cheap vinyl one or nylon one instead, and don't plan on doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, guess what? That's the kind of thing that gets you sued for. And
Yeah.
mind you, that's a different lawsuit, actually. That's false advertising.
Uh-huh.
So, oh god, what a fucking debacle.
Yeah, I imagine people are getting fired.
Again,
You said that.
the problem is like, and part of the problem is that just their response is,
Their response is bordering on sticking their fingers in their ears and yelling na 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 na.
Yeah. Okay. So here's an
Yeah.
important
and
thing.
and the physical versions didn't actually come with the game. They didn't even come with the game on an actual CD that would bring up a thing to download the game. It just comes with a cardboard cutout the shape of a CD with a code printed on it.
But that's standard
Well, that-
practice for physical media now. It's
I
cheaper to
know,
put
yeah.
that in than print a disc.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's like as long as the game shows up there,
Yeah.
that's not a problem. You know, the problem with that is some of these collector's editions didn't even have the fucking game. It was just the extraneous shit.
Yeah.
Minus, the thing you fucking wanted. But that's another
Mhm.
pot.
That Ubisoft has that bullshit problem too.
Yeah, that's Ubisoft right there. But getting back to Bethesda, and here's the thing: the whole negative reaction, backlash. When the sales figures come out and they might be high, don't take that as a sign that this shit was actually successful. Call this the Batman v Superman.
Well, and they
First
also
off, a lot of those sales were locked in before the thing even came out because that's the way the game industry works now.
also they slashed it 30% like for Black Friday, and that's unheard of for a brand new AAA game.
Yeah, the biggest thing to look at will be this. Will this then like cripple the sales of later games based on the reputation of this one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's not the first bad game in a series that sells badly. It's the game that came after the first bad game in a series.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this is the first bad Fallout game, just as an example.
Right. So, it's like what I'm getting at is it couldn't, but like, the next Bethesda game could crater in sales.
Yeah.
That is from Bethesda Game Studios, by the way. That's not counting shit from Arcane Studios, id Software, what
Yeah.
have you.
Doom already looks amazing, and I so want that. Just please give. Don't let it suck, and just please give.
Yes. So, and I think that'll about do it for this installment, this episode. Yeah. So coming up on the Sunday reviews, let me see here. We have Kara no Shoujo, obviously. Ballistic Mini Golf, which I am handling. And
So how is this ballistic mini golf?
I'm like, how do I put this? Yeah, it's pretty much mini golf. It's got a few accoutrements, but it's like if you played a mini golf game, you played this.
I'm just curious because most golf operates on roughly ballistic principles. It's when there's it's when there's like landmines attached to the ball that like alter its trajectory in midair that you get out of the ballistic territory. And I say that only because we have reviewed that game.
I know. Well, here's the thing. It's done by glowy red energy. There's no club. Not that matters because this is mini golf and the only club you're using is a putter.
Right.
I'm like,
So it's just mini golf for psychics, exactly like normal mini golf.
well, some of the course design gets suitably impossible. You know, and this is the Police 2, which is a game I like. It vexes me. It's not a thing I was expecting. That's for sure. Like,
I can only parse that as this is also the Police.
well, it's like, yeah, it's a strategy management game. I wasn't exactly expecting that out of this title. Like, anyway, that'll about do it. And if you liked tonight's broadcast, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell to know when we're broadcasting again. And until next time, I wish you good gaming.